Welcome to a new episode of The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D. This week here with Saint. What's going on?
Pretty good, man. What's going on with you? Seems like he might be a little stressed out from the academic work or whatever.
Yeah, it's my fault. It's probably in the syllabus somewhere. But so when I signed up for the master's program, I kind of was thrown into these courses because I have these prerequisites that I have to get done and that I didn't get done because they weren't available for me when I signed up for Fall B. And so it's a whole thing. And so it's not like I went through a course catalog like when I used to sign up for college classes and I knew what the fuck I was getting into. So now I'm in this business management class, which isn't so bad, but I had to do a group project and I hate group projects. And then there's this other class, blockchain technology. And I've heard of blockchain, but this is just really immersive. And so I'm getting a whole jumping into the deep end kind of thing. And now I have to write an 8 to 10 page paper on blockchain technology, which it's not that bad because I realized didn't have a double space. So I probably will be able to meet the 8 pages. It's going to be a lot of bullshit. So whatever.
We're talking about blockchain. We're talking about like crypto and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Saint. That's what crypto is kind of, but it's not just that. So if you learn about it, like blockchain was invented, this is really going to be really boring and not going to last very long. The blockchain was invented in like the 90s, I think. And then this guy, Satoshi Takamoshi or something, I forget. I know I should probably know that for the final exam. But he invented Bitcoin or whatnot, the theory of Bitcoin. And so, but
if he's even a real person, right?
Exactly.
Because they don't know. It could be just a group of people,
It could be, yeah. Like, did you know that they actually tracked down a guy with the exact same name? He was living in like San Francisco or something, but he's like, nah, man, it's not me. It was like an old Japanese guy or, a Japanese American. And they found out it really wasn't him, but he had the exact same name. So it's kind of interesting. But the technology itself it is really cool because, if you think of like a decentral, and this is, like I said, sorry, we're not losing any of our 5 or 6 listeners.
Right.
It's like it's a decentralized, thing. So you don't have to go through banks. You don't have to swipe on a credit card machine, have it go to your bank, have it go to the other bank, have them approve it, have it come back to the seller. It just goes between you and one other person. But there are those downfalls, where Bitcoin is so volatile, even Ethereum. But that's all crypto. You can just use it for just peer-to-peer or business-to-business thing. You don't need all the cryptocurrencies. But it's just like I thought I was done writing papers, and it's me getting back into this, trying to get in a master's program. I know you wanted to talk about, bettering yourself in education and whatnot, because I've been bitching to you about that.
Well, no, I mean, my wife, she's going through the same thing. I mean, she's younger than both of us. She's 37, 38. And like we've said before, your wife, she's getting into the field that your wife's in, medical coding, and she's going back and just going through all the textbooks. Hers is more of a straightforward program. It's a direct job program. It's not, getting a degree, but it's getting all the certificates and certifications. So she become a medical biller / coder. And, but yeah, I mean, she's just going through it. The first course she took was medical terminology, and now she's doing anatomy, and just the pace that they want you to go if you want to like get through it quickly. Some days she's just really, really tired. I just see all the notes and everything she's taking. So not just thought it's interesting for myself. I've also thought about maybe going back to school again. I don't know if I was thinking about going to cybersecurity, because there's a big market for that, but just the thought of actually going back to school and having to do stuff like that. I know they also have like courses that are more, I guess, linear, that you don't have to take all the other stuff to get an actual degree, where you can just take a full-blown course and get a job doing cybersecurity. But even the thought of going back to school like that, I know if I went to school for, I don't know, say something more creative, I don't know, going something more like an Adobe stuff. But I feel like a lot of that stuff, if you just go to YouTube University, you could probably get good at it and just practice that. But yeah, man, I feel you trying to go get a master's. I mean, seems like in order to get some higher level jobs, they're like, I see the postings like they're requiring just a master's degree. And it's like, do you really need a master's for this? But I guess it's kind of just a way to weed out people, weed out candidates. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I keep going. I emailed the admissions people yesterday because I was having difficulty signing up for the prerequisite courses they want me to take, because I found out that we may have touched on this briefly, but with my job, I get the tuition waiver, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have to pay that back if I didn't stay 5 years or whatnot. But I emailed someone the other day who kind of knows about the program, and they're like, no, that's only for one specific program. If you have the state tuition waiver or whatever it is, you don't have to stay 5 years. So I'm like, all right, that makes me feel a little better about, staying in the program possibly. If I flunk out or whatnot, yeah, it'd suck. I'd lose the waiver probably, but I wouldn't have to continue it.
When you say 5 years, you mean stay 5 years your job or stay 5 years with the program?
5 years with the job after you graduate.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, a prerequisite, for you, because they're paying for your program. But I think it's only for the master's in social work program. And since I'm doing master's in information technology, or I'm trying to anyway, I mean, I got A's in both my classes right now. It's just a lot of shit. Like, I got this paper I got to do. I got this final I got to do for that. And then I haven't even started the business management class that's due all by the 9th. So that's, what is that? Thursday. Wait, when was the 9th? Oh, that's Thursday. Shit. I was like, did the 9th pass already?
That's actually my birthday. So I was like,
oh,
good luck with that.
Happy
I'm like,
birthday.
my birthday's coming up real quick. And you're like, I got to do a whole class by my, I was like, yeah, the 9th's my birthday. So.
All right. Oh, and by the way, I'm coming back to Clearwater for work the week before Christmas. So I think I'm be staying more towards Trinity. Maybe we can hook up while I'm over there. I haven't seen you in 9 years, man.
Yeah, for sure. We can you can come hang over here. We can just go out, grab a beer somewhere and chill and chop it up in real life instead of over the Zoom call, But yeah, man.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, so but I'm all for people bettering themselves. So we'll see. We'll see if I stick with it. If you want to, if you have that desire, go do it. But like you said, a lot of the stuff we went to school for, not necessarily radio, but like editing and all that kind of stuff. Shit, just go to YouTube. You don't even need things like lynda.com anymore. Like, you can just look that shit up online.
Right. It's amazing the stuff that you can just find on YouTube. And they'll show you how to do everything. You just type it in. Crazy.
My daughter is learning how to play a fucking guitar from watching on YouTube. Like, and I've always thought like playing a bass would be cool, but I never put forth the effort of watching these videos or, seeing what people are doing. And she's telling me, oh yeah, I just realized I was holding the strings the wrong way and now it makes sense. I'm like, damn, like that's pretty good.
Especially for free,
Yeah, right.
Although I would suggest, here's a quick usual Saints review, YouTube Premium. You get inundated with those ads. Hey, try it for a month for free, blah, blah, blah. And right when I got off the boat, I said, all right, fuck it. I'm going to be here for at least a couple months. If I get a month for free, I'll try it out. Completely change the YouTube experience. No ads, no bullshit. You get YouTube music with it. And then if you do it just single, it's like $12 a month, but you can do a family for, I think, $17 a month or whatever. But I just did the single because, the family, they can keep watching ads. I'll just be the one, but completely, because what happened was, so I was signed into my normal account on my Safari browser. And then for some reason I was on my Firefox browser and I just quickly was trying to YouTube something, whatever. And a bunch of ads kept popping. I was, what the fuck is this? Like, I realized I wasn't logged in. And yeah, that's when I realized, that no ads experience is far better. So for $12 a month, I'd say it's worth it. Just as good as, Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever. So.
Yeah, I think that that's the experience with anything. I love how we go off on these tangents when we pick one thing out of everything else someone else says. But like with everything with no ads. Like my parents wanted me to get Hulu with no ads, but I'm like, nah, fuck it. I only have to watch an ad at the beginning of the show and then I'm fine, whatever. But they, I was against that. But I get it. Once it's gone and you get subjected to it again, like you said in your why are you still using Firefox browser? But that's a different story. but when you logged in, you weren't actually logged in. you're just like, what the fuck? This is not what I wanted. So It's a total change. Like when you get used to that, like I know there's HBO with ads now.
Right.
I can't even imagine that. Like, because all of my life, like, how long's HBO been around? Since me and you have been born, right? And so, like, I've never had an ad with HBO. I can't imagine watching. Go ahead.
We just got into this because we were getting HBO Max with our DirecTV for free, and then we were like, "Yeah, fuck DirecTV, fucking Vulture." So got rid of DirecTV. We're like, we're just gonna go to a streaming life, but then it was supposed to be we were grandfathered in our old AT&T because we have AT&T for our phones. So we're supposed to be grandfathered in, but then I guess sometime in October, they got rid of it. So that way, whatever plan we were on where we were sharing our data no longer gave you free HBO Max. So I called them up and I want to make sure she's not here because she's not going to hear, but we're getting our daughter a phone for Christmas. So we're adding a new phone line so she can finally be responsible, whatever. So with that, we were asking for the price and they said, oh, you're only going to pay like, 15 or $20 more a month for the extra line. Okay. But then we're trying to watch something on HBO Max and they said, oh, your HBO Max expired through your AT&T account. So I called them up and was like, okay, give me the rundown. How much is it going to cost me? And essentially we upgraded from what we had before to the Elite. I still get a military discount because I've had AT&T for that long. I still get my veterans and my military discount for it. But essentially, switching to the Elite, and the reason I did it because it was going to cost us $15 a month, which is exactly the price of HBO Max. But we also get 40 gigs of hotspot. So now we can use our phone for hotspot for somewhere, and we don't have internet for our laptops and our iPads. But it was like, so basically what you're saying is you're going to charge me $15 a month, which is basically the cost of HBO Max that you get free. But she said, well, you do get the hotspot. And I'm like, okay, fuck it. I mean, what am I going to do? Not be on it. But then she was like, well, you cannot get it. And then you can get the HBO Max with ads for only $5. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not watching HBO with ads. Crazy. Can you imagine me in the middle of a Sopranos shit and ads pop up? You're like, what the fuck? Nah, not going backwards, man. That's the thing in life, man. I think half the things I do in life is because I ain't going back. That's why I fear if I ever had money and I started flying first class all the time, there'd be no way. Like, not going back to the back of the plane. Never, ever.
I've never flown first class. Is it that much of a difference? Have you flown?
I have a few times. I think twice I just got a free upgrade. And, it's nice. You get free drinks, space, leg room. But then one time, like I had to split the cost with the company when I was flying up to Alaska. And it's just, you feel like they just treat you better. I don't know. I've never actually flown like business class. I think only once or twice I've been on a plane that actually has business class seating. And of course I wasn't up there, but yeah, that's the only, I've said this diatribe many a times. If I become rich, not very many things would change about me. I'd have just probably more of what I currently have now. I'd still have the same geeky shit, same whatever. You wouldn't see me in a Maserati or Bugatti or any of that dumb shit, but air travel, oh yeah, I'm going up and I'm never looking back. I would fly private jet. I know the environment, all that bull. Nope. I would fly on a PJ all the time, business class, first class if I could. That'd be it.
I don't think I've ever, I'm sure I have it maybe once, maybe when I went to San Diego for Comic-Con and I just didn't notice it. But I've never flown on a plane where like to the left was first class and to the right was where I went because I always go right. You know what I mean? So like I don't know any better. I only know what I see in movies and shit like that.
Right. I think it's usually like the 747s are really big planes. I've walked past business class like, oh, this is how the other life. So like when I flew from, what was it? I was flying to Korea. When I flew back and forth from Korea, there were 747s and you kind of walk past there. And so you notice the business class where they have the upper decks. But then on those flights, because they're transcontinental, you get free drinks anyway. So, or they used to. That was 10, 15 years ago. So I don't know what it is now, but nah, you can see some of the Casey Neistat videos and all this stuff for the really, really high end business class. We're talking about $5,000-$10,000 a seat. But really, you get your own, it's like your own cubicle, where you can lay out the seat to be a bed and they hook it up, free drinks, all that kind of stuff. And the ones going to Dubai, in the United Emirates, they have where you're basically getting your own little like room. So
nice. All right, let's see what else we got. We're doing all this fun stuff. Let's do death. You want me to touch on death? I only have the one for the week, unless you can think of anyone else. Just happened today. By the time this comes out, it will be today. I always forget that we've been recording day of, so it's fucking me up.
Unless you count Chris Cuomo too, but no, we'll just
we're going to talk about him.
We'll start off with a real death. Yeah.
Well, poor Bob Dole. I remember him from the '96 election where he was trying to unseat, the incumbent Bill Clinton. Back then I was, 15, 16-year-old kid. I was 16 when the election happened. All I remember is, oh yeah, I'm all up Bill Clinton. Oh, Bob Dole's so old. Oh, he's got that weird hand thing. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And Saturday Night Live making fun of him and all that kind of stuff. Now, like, I would kill to have a quote unquote normal Republican conservative like Bob Dole rather than the crazy motherfuckers we have in Congress running for president, were president because the whole electoral college popular vote thing, but that's fine. So I would kill to have insane people like him who could possibly reach a compromise and not deal with what we have today. So, man, rest in peace, Bob Dole. I know you were 98 years old, so like you were up there anyway, but I sometimes you forget people are still alive. I remember a few years ago, I heard he was still alive and I was like, what? Oh, okay. But man, it just sucks to lose someone of the old way of life back when, back when things were normal, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess number one, I was still like, is Bob Dole still alive? And I guess he had to be because he just died. Because when I see him number one trending on Twitter, I was like, oh, Bob Dole. You ever get that thing where you look on Twitter? I don't know if you're on there that much, but you see someone's name, he's like, oh, guess that person just died. Especially someone who you thought was already dead. And so right away, I was like, yeah, Bob Dole must have passed. That was one. Two, he did come from an old school. And I mean, I'm sure someone's writing a book about it, but I just find it fascinating. When you say he comes from the old school Republicans, it's kind of, and I know certain Republicans, even maybe Jeremy would push back on this, but I think the Republican Party went through a metaphor. They went through a change to where a lot of it dealt a lot with cultural issues that initially defined Republicans. And then I think during the 80s and 90s, they became more and more defined by economic issues. They became more economic, quote unquote, business Republicans. And the thing that kind of got them was people like Bill Clinton kind of flanked them on it because while, yes, socially they were onto the left, they kind of mirrored some of the things that, quote unquote, the economic Republicans did on the right. And Bill Clinton kind of flanked them where Bill Clinton was, for welfare reform. Bill Clinton had, the DNC, the classic, I think it was I forgot his organization, what they call the Democratic something council. Him and a lot of moderate Democrats are a part of. They kind of copied a lot of the business sense that Republicans traditionally had. They got really in deep with Wall Street. And so those Democrats kind of outflanked the Republicans, where I would say a lot of the Bob Dole, a lot of, let's say, John McCain, older type Republicans, and maybe incorrectly, I mean, obviously, if we see the way the country is now, they were always under the impression that they had to evolve when it came to social issues. I mean, they would still always be pro-gun. A lot of them would still be, quote unquote, anti-choice, pro-life. But when it came to other things, when it came to social issue about race, immigration, they tended to evolve and want to, the status quo was like, hey, we can't be the party of just old white men, or old, just our party just be a party of, white people in the Midwest. We have to evolve. We want to expand. And again, somewhat disagree with me, but I think the election of Barack Obama created the counter revolution to where like you get a Trump is like, oh no, we're still going to just try to be the party of old white people and screw all those other things. Maybe we can win if we just double down on it. And again, having Hillary Clinton as an opponent probably helped that process. I still feel like, Bernie or almost any other Democrat had won, Donald Trump would have lost. But Democrats specifically picked the person who could only be more hated by Donald Trump as Hillary Clinton. Anyway, let's not relitigate that. But yes, I do think that that's the old guard of Republicanism, where a lot of them, you call them socially conservatives to a point, but I think they became more of the business conservatives, and they basically lost step with their base, because their base was basically getting taken advantage of like everybody else in America. Only thing is, their base just blamed it on black people and Mexicans and not the rich white people on Wall Street who was robbing everybody. It's like, the thought is I could be one of those rich white people on Wall Street, but it's these Mexicans who are coming across the border taking my jobs and these lazy blacks on welfare. It's if their base actually stopped for a second and realized like, hey, the leader of this, the leader of the cult that you revere is a Manhattan elitist who's been robbing you blind, Trump University, Trump steak, Trump, whatever. But, so yeah, they're dying off. They're a dying breed. And, we're just going to become a nation of extremists. So, I mean, too bad Bob Dole. He was a war hero, had that, I want to say handicap. What's the right way to say it with his arm? Disability. Yeah, I guess that's the proper way to say it. This disability coming from, actually, being, those days are over too, where you have actual Republicans who aren't just war hawks who talk about the million people who actually served and who actually, had a real understanding what it was like to send people to war, as opposed to, your Trumps and your Cheneys and those people who just, are more than willing to send people to war as long as it's not them or their family. So as you can see, my opinions of that, but, I never really, unlike a lot of people like Bob Dole and John McCain, I mean, once they lost, I still had respect for them as senators, as, as civil servants to a lot of these people, the Romneys, and of course the Trumps, and I mean, half the crazies we have in Congress now. I have zero respect whatsoever for some of these people.
Right. Let's take a quick break. I wanted to touch on something you just said, but we'll take a quick break and we'll touch on it when we come back. So you've been listening to Usual Saints. We'll be right back with more news, pop culture, and definitely, I think, if the entire C block, because I think we'll touch on everything else before we get to the fun thing. We're going to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and the trailer that just came out.
Yeah, that's another good note. All right.
All right. We'll be right back. What was it you were talking about? You're talking about war heroes and damn, I forget what I hate when I lose my thought process, but that's okay.
War heroes, John McCain, guys serving.
It was right in between John McCain and Bob Dole. I just forget what it was, but that's fine if I come back to it.
Crazies in Congress, Clinton.
I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Comes back to yeah.
Welcome back to the Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Saint. We definitely have to touch on Chris Cuomo being first suspended and then being fired just a few days later. I mean, I never watched his show, so I can't say I liked his program. I know it was #1 on CNN. I was a big fan of what his brother did as governor for New York. But Jeremy likes to point out, are you guys going to criticize Cuomo? He's sexually abusing all these people. I was like, listen, as soon as he whatever comes out, that's fine. Let the evidence come out. I'm not a fan of the guy anymore. Obviously, he was doing some stuff inappropriate, even though I still don't fully understand what it was. And so apparently his brother was trying to help him in some way, including I guess there were some text messages found or something to his brother saying, hey, I got a line on the wedding girl. And I guess that is one of the people who Governor Cuomo allegedly did something to or whatnot. So, hey, man, you can't do that kind of stuff, especially as a journalist. You're supposed to be impartial. You're supposed to, be there to report. You can be a talking head and be an opinionated person. But you're working for CNN, and CNN as much as people think they might be left-wing news network, they're trying to stay impartial. They're trying to be a news network. And if they have this guy who's breaking these ethical rules, you ain't going to be there anymore. And that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I have an opinion of it. I like, me personally, I don't give a fuck Andrew Cuomo. Fuck it. First of all, you do any of that stuff in your position of power, fuck off. I tell everybody. And, you know, here's the thing. I would be flabbergasted, completely out of my mind if, say, like Barack Obama was caught doing slimy, skeezy things. Not because I think he's above it. Human nature. I think a lot of people can be in a position where they abuse their power. I think just some people are smarter than others. And I find like the people who are the most rational, like, hey, I've got a lot to lose from this shit. And I'm not some skeezy. You can just tell by the things they do. So I would criticize anybody, especially Andrew Cuomo. Not to mention, a lot of things don't get done in the state of New York because of Andrew Cuomo. He would actually back Republican-based. So I guess let's quick sidetrack to New York politics. New York politics, right? You have New York City, which rightfully so dominates the state, but a lot of things don't get done because it's controlled by Albany, New York. And the rest of the state kind of holds the city by, you know, quote unquote, the balls, because they don't want the city controlling everything, even though almost 75% of the money in the state comes from the city. Like New York mass transit, the subway system in New York City is run by the state. And people always ask, why does our mass transit suck? It's because it's run by the people in Albany, and they don't give a fuck if New York City subway stations aren't good. That's just one example of how Mario Cuomo, when he was governor, would kowtow to a lot of conservative Republicans in the state of New York, as opposed to where the money and the real power should lie in the city. Anyway, my deal is, if you're in power, if you're an elected official, from Bill Clinton to Cuomo to Trump to I don't care, you get in the power and you're doing a bunch of shit, especially if it involves harassment or anything, fuck off. Like, we don't need any of these people. I don't understand the hero worship we make of politicians. Like, you can be replaced. Like, you're not that special, any of them. There's no kings. There's no, I mean, the smartest people in the world, the business people, that's a whole other world. But for an elected official, I have no problem getting rid, quote unquote, canceling anybody that's involved in any kind of shit. Second part is, Chris Cuomo, this family is a family of morons. The easiest thing he could have done when this whole thing happened, I guess they became a lightning rod for the right wing, because I was on the fishing boat, so I don't know what happened. But during the whole COVID-19, and there's different opinions on whether what Cuomo did was good for New York or was bad for New York. But I guess when the pandemic first happened, and of course New York was a hotspot, he was getting a lot of praise for how he was handling it. Later on, we found out that there were things with the nursing homes and other things that came about that either he wasn't being honest about or could have been handled better. Fine. But he was going on CNN with his brother, and they were having kind of these fireside chats about what he was doing in New York, what to do. It was making Andrew Cuomo look good, making Chris Cuomo look good, whatever. We come to a situation where find out maybe he wasn't doing so good a job, and we have all this harassment stuff. All Chris Cuomo has to do is to go on camera and to say, I am excusing myself from talking about my brother because I'm conflicted. He could say, I am biased towards my family and this job. So anything that has to do with that story, I'm going to excuse myself from. If you go and say that beforehand, even if you get caught with this stuff here, you kind of build a shield wall, like going on air and saying, hey, there's a conflict here. I am, quote unquote, a journalist or whatever. It's the line's getting so muddied. So where like you could be on a cable, quote unquote, news network, but you're not actually giving the news, like a Hannity, like half the people on Fox News, but also MSNBC. Like, I don't consider Rachel Maddow a journalist in the traditional sense. Yes, she does journalism and that, but she's more of a commentator. And I don't hold her to the same standard as someone who's doing newspaper or someone who goes on there and say, I'm a reporter or a correspondent. Like you pay Matt out and you pay some people. And like I said, Chris Cuomo is kind of muddied to where, yes, if you're doing the evening nightly news, you're supposed to be a journalist. But if you have your own show with your name on it, you can kind of be more of an opinion maker, commentator, kind of like a columnist in a newspaper. The standard should be you shouldn't lie, which again, Fox News, One News America, that stuff gets thrown out the window, right? If you're on a news network, you shouldn't lie, but you can have an opinion that is biased or whatever. That way, like a Sean Hannity, again, when he's not lying, but he's perfectly fine at having his own opinion. The problem with Chris Cuomo is he never drew that distinction. And CNN probably should have never gotten to the case where they were having the governor of New York's brother come on to his show. And yes, they should have made a clear differentiating line. And Chris Cuomo should have came out and said, when these allegations came about, he should have just came out and said, look, this is my brother. I'm loyal to my family. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to report about this. And I'm going to disassociate myself with anything that has to do with my brother in that situation while I'm working at CNN. He didn't do that. And he let his contacts, what he's really getting in trouble for is he's using his contacts and some of, his insider information at CNN to assist his brother in possibly smearing these women. That's, from what I've understood it, and I'm sure everything's going to come out, but that's when the other shoe dropped and CNN's like, yeah, you're not suspended, you're fired. Because you're using your position at CNN and using the contacts and, the access you have to gain information about these women who are making accusations against your brother. That's just a dumbass move. And maybe he doesn't care about the CNN job or whatever. But if you're not smart enough to know, hey, I have to somehow bridge a wall. He should have just went to CNN right away and say, hey, look, I am not turning against my brother. That's my family. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, and I'm going to go on air and say, hey, I am no longer going to speak about my brother at all. I will have someone else do it. You guys bring in somebody else. So that way there's a clear separation between what I do for CNN and what I do with my brother and my family. And, it's just he deserves. And if he's doing what they say he's doing, yeah, he deserves to get fired. They can't have that. And I'm sure people on the right's going to be like, oh, you see these left wingers and blah, blah, blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. You guys had to fire fucking Bill O'Reilly and Roger Ailes and all the things that go on in the Fox News building so they can shut the fuck up with their self-righteousness. But at the end of the day, Chris Cuomo is a dumbass and looks like your brother's a harasser. So fuck him too. So, good riddance.
Perfectly said. I won't say it any better. So, sorry,
I went on a small rant, but it just bothers me where it's like, yeah, if someone's a dumbass, just get rid of the dumbass. I don't care if it's left, right, conservative, liberal, progressive, whatever. If you're a fucking dumbass, you can't keep your hands to yourself. And then if you're another dumbass who wants to get involved with it and not think that, your employer is not going to see a conflict of interest, you're an idiot too. Goodbye.
All right, let's do one more in this segment. Let's talk about, because it's really recent, and it's a serious subject, but I still want to get thoughts on it because I think it's the first time I've ever seen that people being charged with it. So you have that teen in Michigan who killed those 4 kids in a high school, and yet another senseless school shooting that, we're not going to talk about because it's never going to change because America and guns and all that kind of stuff. But, those poor 4 kids, I see posts with their pictures and their names and everything like that. You got to remember them and not focus on the shooter. But this shooter's parents got charged, fled, hid from the FBI and U.S. Marshals, and were found in a warehouse. They've been charged with involuntary manslaughter. They pled not guilty. They apparently gave I think he was 15-year-old kid a gun like a week before the shooting happened, like a 6 Sauer 9mm semi-auto or something like that. I think, not 100%, but they told, they kind of seem to make light of things because he got called into the office, I guess, twice in that week. And the school is like really shutting that shit down. They're like, oh, well, he told us that these drawings with, the blood and the kid's dead and everything and saying that he wanted to hurt people was for a video game. So that's not our fault. But, the reason the parents, I think, got charged, besides A, giving a firearm as a birthday present to someone who's under 18, and B, being in those school meetings, and literally the day of the shooting, and not going to the kid and be like, hey, where's your gun? Give me your gun, kind of thing. They kind of like played it off. I think one of the text messages said something like, oh, you just can't get caught, doing stuff like that with the drawings and things like that. That's where your downfall is. And then I read that the mom, as soon as the news broke about the shooting, the mom texted the kid and said, Ethan, please don't do this, or something to that effect. So they were aware that this kid was having problems. They were aware that he had this capability. And so I can't recall it, and maybe you can. I can't recall any other parents or any other caregivers being charged in a case like this. And so I thought it was interesting in that way. And again, it's not something I don't think we could have a lot of light fun with. It's not a lighthearted topic, but at the same time, I found it interesting that, wow, maybe, and Michigan, I don't know. I think that's kind of a liberalish state, but not super like California. No, it's not. Okay. I don't know.
It's very, what did I say? Not as much as Oregon or Washington, but it reminds me of those places where everywhere is a very conservative. You may even think you were somewhere in the Midwest or the South. And then you have these enclaves, like huge cities like Detroit, Seattle, Portland, that just dominate the liberalism of the state. That's why blue progressives can win statewide, but the rest of the state is just very, very conservative, gun-toting, Second Amendment type. It reminds me a lot of Washington. People think Washington's very liberal. If you go outside the I-5 corridor, you might be in Alabama for all intents and purposes. Same with Oregon. If you go out there, you're not in Eugene or Portland, but they're dominated by those big cities. So,
and what do you think about what's been going on? I mean, the district attorney, I assume, came forward and charged these parents, and I mean, I couldn't believe they ran. I remember seeing like a picture of them on the Zoom call through court, because I do a lot of Zoom calls for work, so like I know what that looks like. I could tell they were in their car looking at the same camera, whatever the judge listening to the first appearance or whatever, and then they just run. Like, that's crazy. I mean, I get it. I get the fight or flight, but at the same time, I mean, your ass is gonna get caught.
Well, first of all, they don't look like the sharpest, the sharpest tool in the Michigan shed over there. Quick note, because my wife reminded me of this, there was a case that happened right where we used to live in Washington, where a kid went to the mall and he ended up shooting and killing 5 people with his grandfather's rifle. And they caught him 2 blocks away from my house. He was off island, Whidbey Island. We technically lived on an island that's in, Washington Harbor or whatever. He was off island where the mall was, came back home because his father lived pretty close to where we lived in Whidbey Island. And they caught him 2 blocks away from our house. Cause I remember there's a huge police presence. And luckily I was going away from like, what the hell's going on there? And then I found out like, oh, they caught that kid who shot those people at the mall. In that case, they didn't charge the grandfather, even though he had a rifle. It was stored, but not locked up. And, the kid there's another kid who they knew had, mental issues, was allowed to be in a house where he had access to firearms. But in that case, they didn't charge the grandfather. I think for the most part, in that case, they just felt sorry because the grandfather's like, it's just a crazy kid I just decided to take care of. And he knew this. This case is interesting only because I feel like the district attorney, once they got his phone and were able to see the evidence, not only, I mean, in a certain way, I think the school also failed also. Like, if this kid was doing this stuff to the point where you felt concerned to call his parents, you should probably send him home for the day and make it a thing where it's like, hey, until you tell us he's getting help or something's going on, don't come back to the school. Like, if it's that concerning. And the thing was, he was I think a teacher caught him looking on his phone for ammunition. He was trying to buy ammunition online. And with that, she reported it. And that's when his mom's like, hey, you can't get caught doing things like that. Here's to say that in itself, I'm not going to say, is going to make one a school shooter. But if the school felt on top of all the other things, it warranted bringing the parents into school, pulling them out of class. It seems like there's a lot of red flags going on here where he should have just been sent home and not been sent, back to class. That's a failure of school, one. Two, and again, we've talked about this, there's nothing we can do about this. I'm kind of agnostic. I'm not for or against gun rights. I do believe we need stricter regulations, particularly when it comes to who gets access to guns and the kind of guns we have. It makes zero sense to me that you have to get registration and a license to drive a vehicle, but you can go and buy, in some states, you can go buy an AR, as many as you want, AR-15, AK-47, as many rounds, and it's all just, as long as you pass a basic background check, it's as much as you want to go. So, but again, we're never going to solve that. But also the issue is there's some people who just have a very cavalier attitude when it comes to firearms, and they'll be like, oh, we're gun safety and blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, with the amount of weapons out there, no. And of course, I guess this firearm, they said he just kept in the drawer. There was no gun safe, no gun lock, just basically kept in the drawer, and that he had access to. But I think the thing that's going to define this case is that the DEA has enough evidence to where she can, and I think she's correct. She's going to present it to a jury, and they're going to be like, bought him a firearm as a quote unquote Christmas gift. And then he was posting on social media with the firearm. Right away, he's not of age, and kids can shoot, but you have to be in the presence of an adult. It can't be just like, because you can train a child in a firearm that they're not legally supposed to have unless an adult is there and they're doing it in training. But by himself, he's posting videos online of just him, got my brand new toy or something like that, or my brand new beauty. Second, the text messages about, hey, LOL, don't get caught looking at ammunition. That's two. And then the third was, after it happened, she then emailed, don't do it. So all those together, I think, gives the DA what I think, she's looking at and be like, I have enough evidence here that I can charge them. Because you put that evidence in front of a jury and be like, yeah, this isn't a case of some kid broke into his parents' gun supply or broke into a gun safe or something and got it, and the parents didn't know. This was people being irresponsible with a kid who they obviously, the school told you, and you had an inkling of, had some issues that should have been taken care of. And you still just were real cavalier about how you stored your gun and where. Why are you buying a 15-year-old his own handgun for Christmas anyway? It's like a rifle, I may understand. A handgun for what? And if your kid's telling you, I want a handgun for Christmas, maybe you need to have a talk to your kid and be like, when you're 18, do what you want. But at this point, so, and then the last part, running, again, stupid people doing stupid things. I just have this theory that people watch too many movies and stuff like that. It's like, we don't live in those times, 70s. I feel some people live in 2021 and still think we're in 81 or 91. It's like, unless you have the resources, and people who get away have actual resources, but unless you have a shit ton of money and have a good head start, you're not getting away. You're 4,000 out the ATM and turning off your cell phone, you're going to get caught. There are too many cameras, too many places. Someone's going to see you. We just don't live in the world. I mean, people have cameras on their phones. I've actually thought about this. I was like, man, if I had a time machine and you just wanted to commit crime to get away with stuff, like, it would be really easy back in the 80s. And because just thinking about how easy it was to just slip away. But in 2021, there's too many cameras, too many, cell phones, social media. They can catch up with you real quick. People see you on the highway. They'll take a picture and have you on Twitter in an instant. You can't get away. So yeah, these smart people think they're going to run and ran away to Detroit. Yeah. Okay. Come on. So good riddance. But in a way, this may be a better deterrent because, like you said, obviously we're not going to get any gun law or gun restrictions passed in this country. But if prosecutors start going, look, we're not just going to go after the shooter if the shooter's still alive. If we, apprehend them, which again, funny how they can catch kid kills 4 kids, injures other people, but yet police go and swarm them and not only catch them alive and unharmed. I mean, funny how, when police feel scared and not scared. Sorry, side note.
No. Yeah. I'm on that same thought process as you. And I think we're kind of done with this unless you want to say anything else. Mm-hmm. But side note, did you see that video the other day of that cop killing that dude in the wheelchair?
No, I did not.
Dude, so like this guy stole a toolbox. He's in one of those motorized scooters, basically. And so he's in this thing. He's at a Walmart, steals a toolbox. The loss prevention tries to stop him at the door. He pulls a knife somehow. Like he's in they call him a guy in a wheelchair. Yeah, he's in a scooter, wheelchair, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, he pulled a knife. They let him go. An actual cop was there off duty, like doing extra security or something. He follows the guy through the parking lot, basically yelling at the guy to stop, that kind of stuff. You hear the calls. Like I watched the YouTube video. You hear the calls. The guy's calling from backup. The wheelchair guy goes from Walmart through the parking lot and he starts heading to like the garden center of a Lowe's because that's where the video ends. And the backup arrives, the actual on-duty cop. And you see her body cam too. She hops out the car within 15 seconds. The guy's like, he's got a knife. And she's like, sir, put that on the knife. And while she's like saying this, like pop, 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 like 8 times. This off-duty cop who's now been fired, and I think it was in Arizona, shot this dude in a wheelchair 8 times because he was about to go inside the garden center entrance at a Lowe's with a knife because he stole a toolbox. Now the guy was white, so it's not like a race thing or anything like that. I think the cop was maybe white too, but like that's just such excessive force. Like right. I don't get it. Like I mean, was it necessary? Like.
No, and to go to an issue. So to piggyback, the kid surviving, that's what should happen. Unless he points a gun. Yeah, unless he's pointing a gun at you and, has a weapon or is directly, in your direction, not running away, then you're allowed to use lethal force. My only thing is the excuse we hear all the time is I feared for my life, whether someone is armed or unarmed or whatever. And it's funny to me, the situations where people are taken alive. It's funny on me how more times than not, we see people who murder people are taken alive. Most of the time they either take their own life or they're apprehended. And yet we have situation of someone who's unarmed and somehow they get shot and killed because of fear of, my life's in danger or something like that. I just find that very interesting. In that case, all I'll say is we've only given cops lethal weapon as the tool. If you see how there are videos, how cops in the UK and other places, they get riot gear, they get stuff, they handle perpetrators with knives, with mental issues, and they take them in alive. And I'm just saying that for some reason, this, we have no option here, but, lethal, deadly force, even tasers and stuff, which to me, I don't think are being properly trained at. But, a situation like this, you could just have a guy having a mental breakdown or a mental issue where, he may be stealing, but he might not know what's going on. We don't know all kinds of things, but all we seem to do is rely on lethal force. So, yeah, that's an issue. But yeah, those parents, good riddance. And like I said, I hope more prosecutors are going to be like, I think it's going to be a workaround where they're going to look at, hey, if we have enough evidence to prove you weren't being safe with the handling or the how you store your firearms, you can get charged too. And I'm all for it because it just seems there's just too cavalier in attitude about guns, gun safety, and that much. So.
All right. Well, that's another serious block, but we got some fun stuff to talk about. So we're going to come back in the C block with the fun stuff for a short C block. Because I know my man Sainte's seen that Afterlife teaser that got put out, right? Or not Afterlife, Across the Spider-Verse. Afterlife's Ghostbusters. So we'll touch on that stuff real quick when we come back. You've been listening to Usual Saints. We'll be right back. I can't believe I said Afterlife. I hate when I try to do everything off the cuff, but that's fine. Welcome back to the usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Saint. Two things. One, did we already touch on Ghostbusters Afterlife? I know I brought it up, but did I talk about it at all?
You've seen it. I haven't. I plan on seeing it, but I guess my main thing is like I'm not going to go to the movie theater to see it, but
right.
I'm not sure if you gave it a review or not, but you can go give it a quick review right now if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth seeing. The girl in it, I think she's older now, McKenna Grace. She was good, as I mean, I think everyone figured it out. It's not like it's a spoiler. Like she's obviously playing Egon's granddaughter, so she does real well, basically playing the lead in the movie. There's some good surprises. It's basically a nostalgia flick. There aren't as many ghosts as I would have liked to see, but maybe that's just me going off the first two. Even Ghostbusters 2 has a special place in my heart. But
is the going consensus that Ghostbusters 2 isn't good? Because I had seen part 2 first, so that's what I was familiar with, and lo and behold, I watched part 1. I'm like, so the black guy wasn't, I was like, I thought that maybe he came at the end of part 1, but yet that wasn't the case. But I saw part 2 before I saw part 1. So, but I enjoyed both. But I guess the consensus is, part 1 holds a special place in people's hearts and imaginations. And then, people completely didn't like the I didn't watch it. It didn't look like it was going to be that good, but I'm also not one of those, dude bros. They have to make it all chicks because they're trying to be all politically correct. I'm just fuck that noise. It's like I'm all for reboots and doing something different, but it just didn't look like it was going to be that, or at least my kind of comedy for a Ghostbusters. So,
yeah, that's the kind of page I'm on. I would maybe say unpopular opinion, and I know I'll maybe get some shit from anyone who hears this, but I don't find I don't even want to say it.
This is a safe space. We'll just, and we'll just have this on the internet for the rest of the time and he's back. But go ahead.
I don't find female comedians that funny unless it's like I know
what? Oh shit, canceled. Let me get on Twitter. Mike D does not find women comedians funny. You unfun. This is also another. Here we go, dipping into the serious again. But it's a good topic because I find myself saying this time and time again, and I ask my wife, like, "Am I sexist?" Because it came about because I was trying to find the female superhero movie that I really enjoyed. I was thinking about ranking them. And I was like, Wonder Woman, I don't know, they really like Wonder Woman. Then it was like Black Widow. Wonder Woman 1984, I thought was a disaster. Now I was thinking of Captain Marvel. I was like, Now I was like, wait a minute, am I sexist? What's going on here? And I don't feel that way because I feel there's cartoons. I did particularly, I finally came to the Harley Quinn movie, which I thought for me worked the best, even though I didn't think it was like I'd put in like my top 10 super. I thought that worked the best and I really enjoyed. I think Margot Robbie's performance is great. She's great as Harley Quinn through all the Suicide Squad and what we've seen. But and I have this idea of female comedians because I've thought about this also. I'm like, what female comedians do? Okay, here's a better question. Let me bring you back instead of me rambling. What was your thought of Bridesmaids?
So I never watched it originally. I watched it fairly recently because I think it came out almost 10 years ago or something like that by now.
Yeah, I mean, well, if only there was a website that could tell us.
I know. I feel like it was 09 or something, but I'm not sure. But so I watched it and yeah, I mean, I laughed a few times, but was it like my gut busting laughs? I really don't find Melissa McCarthy funny. I feel like she is not trying too hard because she's funnier than me. She's a producer. She's an actor. She's probably directed things. She's obviously got something going that people enjoy. I don't know if it's the gross out comedy of females, but maybe that's what I don't enjoy. And does that make me sexist, or is that just something I don't want to see women doing? But like, I used to think I liked Sarah Silverman a lot, but then when I started trying to go through one of her stand-up specials, I think it was Jesus is Magic. I rented it in New York when I was up in New York one time, and I tried watching it. I'm just like, I was bored, and so I turned it off, and I returned it to the video store. again, like I'm all for anyone that can make me laugh, and I feel like when there's mixtures in movies, whether it's males and females or whatnot, I'm good with it. But I don't know. Like I said, I want to watch Ghostbusters, the reboot, the one that was done a few years ago, because my kid said it was okay. You know, she didn't seem to have like a definitive opinion one way or the other. I just want to give it a shot. You know, I'm always a person to give something a shot. I just feel like I don't know why I feel that way. And I feel kind of bad about it because I really legit don't hate anything. I want to like it, but I just don't know why I don't.
Right. No, and you were right. It was 10 years ago. It was 2011. Okay. Bridesmaids came out. But yeah, I tend to, then you have the conservative, free thinkers on YouTube says, well, you're just supposed to like what you like. And, you're trying to, what do they call it? Virtue signal, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, because I try to give everything on its merit. But I've thought about female comedians. And for a while, I still think Ellen's funny. That's not particularly on her show, because I kind of was right about this. I was like, I'm guessing some of this, it's not a fakeness, but it's like, I believe Ellen is her authentic self, but I believe for the show to do that show every day, some days it has to be like, I turn it on and I turn it off. And like one of the big things I heard about, like where Ellen was ripping at an intern because they brought in fish, and I was like, well, yeah, because the show is the Ellen show. And if she doesn't like the smell of fish, guess what, Mr. Intern, get the fuck out of here with your fish. You know what I'm saying? It's the Ellen. And at her level, with as much money as she have, as much responsibilities as she has, just imagine like all the shit that weighs on top of you. And then I'm sure the littlest things just probably piss you off. Like, who the fuck brought fish in? I don't like fish. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's worth, $500 million. Name on the show, producer, writer, blah, blah, blah. Probably working on stand-up. But I find Ellen funny. The show's a little whatever. I find, I'm trying, I hate it when this happens too, because I'm like, okay, what female comedians I find funny? I feel the same way you feel about Sarah Silverman, where I see where her funny. I've seen her be funny in a lot of things, but just watching her stand up, it's like, eh. But I sometimes I have the same problems. I thought Amy Schumer, she had one stand up special. Then you come to find out maybe a lot of it she was joke stealing. That's not good. But then she had another stand up special where she did it at the Apollo in Harlem, and I thought that special was terrible. And again, maybe it's just misogyny. I thought, it was really good. And even though she's an older comedian, who Kathleen Madigan is?
Name sounds familiar. I don't know.
I think if you heard her doing stand-up, if you heard her voice, you'd remember. She was real big in the 80s, early 90s, and she's still doing stand-up today. But, I mean, she was really... she was still in like maybe the Jerry Seinfeld area of stand-up. Elaine Boozler, she was doing stand-up, and she retired, but she kind of took some time off, and she's back again. But yeah, it's kind of hard with female. And like you said, I have that same feeling too. It's like, I feel I'm not sexist. I'm not one of these dude bros saying, oh, men are just funnier, blah, blah. I don't necessarily feel that way. I will say this, Maya Rudolph, who was in Bridesmaids, I find her hilarious in every fucking thing she does.
Yeah.
Maya Rudolph is like an A+. I literally feel like I've never seen her in anything I'm like, she's bad. She's always good to great to awesome. Yeah. So Maya Rudolph's one. Also, what's the other one on SNL? I think she's still on there now.
Describe her. What'd she play? What'd she play? Describe her. I believe
she's a lesbian, but she does all the, and now she's doing Verizon commercials.
Oh, Kristen Wiig.
No, not Kristen Wiig. She was in Bridesmaid. The other one. Damn.
Oh yeah. No. Oh shit. Oh, damn it.
It's not Melissa.
No. Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. Oh fuck. I'm gonna Google it.
I know, right?
Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon. She is funny. She's funny.
She is funny as fuck, and she's super talented. And she's probably at a point where she's probably outgrown SNL, but she's funny as fuck in everything I see her in. A great character actor, compare everything. So it's not that I don't find females funny, but I know what you're trying to say sometimes, where you find like female stand-up comedians, or you find like a female-centric comedy, like Bad Moms, right? That was the name of it. I think it was Bad Moms.
Mila Kunis and whatnot.
With Mila Kunis and
Kristen Bell.
Yeah. And it was funny. Then they did Bad Moms Christmas, the sequel, and I'm like, oh, this is just bad, you know? And it's like I said, but I'm more than willing to give everyone a chance. And then to me, I find the other way, which also may say something else, where I find, a standout female performance. I'm like, oh shit, look at that. I'm really I really try to boost or amplify, because I'm like, oh, that was amazing. But then I'm like, wait a minute, was I not expecting it to be me? You know what I'm saying? All this to say, when all said and done, my favorite actor, actress, period, of all time is Meryl Streep. And I know this because I used it for one of my passwords. It was funny. I was doing something it was the AT&T account. I was doing something with my AT&T account. Like, okay, do you have your passcode? And I was like, okay, I gave that. And it's okay. Here's the security question. Who's your favorite actor or actress? I was like, what? I was like, that's my question. I was like, well, if I put that as my question, it has to be Meryl Streep. And it was correct. So there you go.
There any hackers who want to get into Sainte stuff?
Yeah, I know, right?
That. No, I mean, you make a good point. Like, I feel like Kate McKinnon and Maya Rudolph, in anything they're in, and it's usually small roles, but whatever they're in, they bring the funny, and I laugh my ass off at those two. And even when they do serious, those two, like, they're just good in general.
Exactly. They're just super talented. And I'm just like, oh man, I've never seen it. And I'm always kind of excited because I remember when I was watching The Good Place, then Maya Rudolph played God, and I was like, oh, and she cracks me up, and I'm always laughing at it. But like you said, when it's like a female-led comedy or stand-up special, I'm usually who's the one who's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine who married Jordan Peele. She's funny.
Oh yeah, shit. Peralta. No.
Yeah, Chelsea Peretti.
Yeah. Yeah. I like her on the show, and actually, she's got this. She was weirdly attractive to me because she's not ugly or anything like that. She just has a different look than a lot of women, and so I think I mentioned this to you guys, the group, before. I did find her attractive. And then she left the show, and I don't know if she went to do her own thing or whatnot. But
she got that Jordan Peele money.
I know,
more misogyny. She married a guy. He's doing well. She's like, yeah, fuck this work. I eat bonbons and get fat, baby.
You know what I like, and they don't do them as much anymore. When Comedy Central was doing those roasts like a decade and 15 years ago, and they put out a new one every year, 2 a year. Everyone on those roasts was pretty much consistently funny. If I have to say anything at all, I feel like the ones that I didn't enjoy as much were like, I think, I'm not sure if it was you or someone else, Anthony Jeselnik. Oh, it was Vince, one of our guest co-hosts. I know he loves him. I'm not a big fan of Anthony Jeselnik. And I remember at the time he was dating Amy Schumer, but then Amy Schumer would get up and she just like, bam, 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 those funny jokes. And I don't know if that roast humor is what I gravitate to or what. And just like, I can't stay there for a whole stand-up special that maybe has themes or whatnot. Like, I mean, for me, stand-up, we've talked about it before. I used to be big into Chris Rock in the 90s. I know Chappelle's really successful lately. I've honestly not seen any of them, and that's a different topic we want to talk about, but I don't want to get into it today. But Jim Jeffries is like really the only one I go see now consistently, and like I may go see him again. Apparently, he's quitting touring, and so what's that like? What am I going to do after that? Louis C.K. Yeah, he announced on his podcast. He said, "Yeah, the pandemic made me see that." He got married. His wife got pregnant. He was spending time with his kid and his ex, girlfriend. He's like, yeah, the pandemic made me see that, there's more to it than, touring and the touring lifestyle. And so he announced
he's the one from Australia.
Yeah, he is. Okay. He is hilarious. If you can go see him, I don't know if he's going to be around anymore because he was just over. We saw him in Fort Myers in October, but he's hilarious. He does the gun control bit, which he's really famous for, which I was going to bring up because he went to Texas for his show when he had a show on Comedy Central, and apparently they were trying to sell him an AR-15 or an AR of some sort so badly that he even said, "I'm Jim Jeffries, like I'm the one that does that gun control bit," and they're like, "I don't care, here you go, let's get," and they went to check him out and they asked for his license and he handed over his California driver's license, and that's when they had an issue with him buying an AR, because it was a California license, and we can't sell a gun to a guy from California. But he's hilarious. And so, it's just, it's a different thing now. You got everything on Netflix. It's still an event, but I feel like there's a new stand-up special every day, every week. And I'm never going to catch up and see them all. Like, I know everyone bragged about, speaking of female comedians, this Hannah Gadsby or whatnot from New Zealand or Australia. I've never seen it. Maybe it's funny. I don't know.
What was the name of that special?
Like Norbit or something, or it was like a name.
Yeah, it was a name. And again, I had never heard of her, but supposedly she was she's very popular in New Zealand. And it was more like there was stand-up, but I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily a one-man show. She's doing stand-up, but she's doing it in a different way. And then she's intermingling very serious issues. And it was supposed to be her goodbye tour. She's like, I'm not going to do stand-up anymore. I'm done with it. But it became such a success here and abroad that, of course, there was a follow-up to it. But it was Nanette. Yeah. And then the thing I hated was seeing these fucking other stand-up comedians say, that's not real comedy. That's bubble. It's like, shut the fuck. I see that as when directors are saying, oh, you have to shoot a movie on film. The whole argument, when they're like, it has to be digital or it's not real filmmaking, or you have to see a movie on the big screen or it's not a movie. Like, do you? Like, some movies are better. Like, if you're going to see Dune, see Dune on the biggest screen with the best sound system you ever seen. You possibly can. But if I'm watching, I don't know, fucking A Marriage Story, I need to see that on a big screen with 100 speakers in front of it's so comedy and what people have, and because we all have so many choices and everything can be so like basically you can get whatever you want. You don't have to get spoon-fed by 3 television networks, a couple of cable networks and whatnot. Like, if there's something specifically you enjoy, you can find it. So, I mean, it's all, whatever. But when I say her comedy special, it was clever and I laughed and she made me think, but was it like gut-busting funny? No, I don't think it was supposed to be. But, it's like people upset at that, but I wouldn't put her as a great comedian, because then she did a follow-up. The follow-up was good. Not as, it was kind of like, also ran, we've gone on a tangent, but needless to say, me and Mike, we're not sexist. We find some females funny, but you female stand-ups, you guys need to work fucking harder because you're not as good as men. Is that where we're ending?
That's a great. That's the thing at the beginning, the cold open. All right. Yep. All awesome. Right. Weird Al. Are you a Weird Al fan?
Yes, I am. I mean, I haven't heard any of his stuff in years, but yes, I am a Weird Al fan.
So he's going on he just announced a North American tour for next year. I guess Clearwater will probably be the closest to you if you're still in Tampa. So look out for those tickets. I want to go when he comes over. He's going to Melbourne over here. So I love him. He claims he's not doing the same set list every night. So I don't know if that's a way to try to get you to come out to more than one show. I think we'll probably still only go to the one, but he's great. I saw him when he did his orchestral tour, No Strings Attached, a few years ago. I just wanted to bring that up because I know that just got announced and let you know about it in case you have you ever been to a Weird Al show?
I have not.
Oh, you need to bring the kids. They would love it. And I assume Ashley would too. She probably has the same sense of humor as you. But it's great. I don't think he's
not really.
No, not really. Okay. Well, he's not going to be. He claims he's doing a lot of the originals and not so much the parodies. And he says he's not going to do costume changes. But again, is that all part of the joke? And he's going to do that anyway. So we'll see. I always like when I go. I don't know if you ever saw it. He put out this fake movie trailer for a movie called Fat. The Weird Al story, or it was called Al, the Weird Al Yankovic story. It has Aaron Paul playing Weird Al. It has Olivia Wilde playing Madonna when he's doing the Like a Surgeon parody. Yeah, it's great.
That just sounds funny, you know.
Oh, you need to as soon as we get done here, you need to go watch it. It's a few minutes long. If it would have been a real movie, it would have been a great movie. I still want it to be a real movie, but I wanted to pass along to any Weird Al fans. He's going out on tour, so some of the tickets are still on sale. I don't think the Florida dates are yet if you're in Florida, like me and Sainte. So keep an eye out on that. But let's end with what we want to talk about the most and have the most fun with is that teaser for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 that got released, I think yesterday or Friday. I don't know, but
yesterday.
Yeah, so I wasn't anticipating that to come out. The first news I saw about it was someone on one of the groups I'm in on Facebook say that it had Part 1 on the banner, meaning, indicating that there would be at least 2 parts. So I'm sure you're excited about 2 movies coming out of this, out of this film. What do you think about the teaser?
First, kind of anticipated a teaser had to be around the corner because they were saying that it was going to come out fall of next year. And I'm like, well, thinking about that, they have to tease something. I didn't think, I think the original came out December of 18. Excuse me. Which is funny. Two of my favorite movies, that and Black Panther, came out same year. Kind of funny. So I figured something was going to drop either now or I figured probably right around the time Spider-Man No Way Home came on, because it's just an obvious connection. Like, hey, people are talking about Spider-Man. Let's give them a little surprise about, the Spider-Man. I think the biggest thing about it is, the Part 1 part, which, again, it's not a huge surprise. I think they like to kind of do these things in trilogies. So I was assuming that this would be one, and, as much money and as much fanfare they got for the first one. I mean, they won an Oscar for it. They, critical acclaim, and it didn't do great its first weekend, but it was one of those movies that just kept rolling along and through word of mouth kept making money and money week after week. So they made a lot of money on this one. So there's no doubt that Sony Animation, they kind of want to get into the game. They had this, and then they came out with, I don't know if you ever seen the Mitchells versus Machines.
No, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and it's good. Yeah, I've not seen it.
It was from Lord and Miller. They were producers on it. There was a writer director. It had a different name, but I think they changed it to Mitchells versus Machines because the other name was more abstract, and I think they needed something. And I think that went straight to Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. So, but this is Sony Animation trying to really get into the animation games versus DreamWorks, Disney, Pixar, and whatnot. And I mean, when you got a killer race of Spider-Man, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like you said, you put Spider-Man on something, and even if it sucks, it may not be great and it might not make all the money, but it's going to make some money. Just Spider-Man and Batman, it's just, people don't remember, even those terrible Joel Schumacher Batman movies with George Clooney and the bat nipples and all that, they still made money. They were disappointments and they were critically, panned, as rightly so, but it made money. Even Batman v Superman, which I thought Snyder, all his stuff were pretty bad. Money comes in. So I anticipated it. The idea that they're calling it Part 1, probably smart. That way they don't have to come out with another title. They're going through the whole title thing. But it should be interesting. The only other, do you know anything else about it, or just did you watch the trailer? And what do you think of the trailer?
So it reminded me, because Haley Steinfeld from Hawkeye is Spider-Gwen's voice, right? Okay,
that is correct.
So
nice little,
nice link
prelude to our USSR episode. But go ahead. Yep.
No, I mean, and listen, I'm one for a great drawn person and female, and Spider-Gwen is hot, so I will say that. And having Haley Steinfeld's voice on there is great too. Miles, him just is natural, and again, it's not comedy, but it's his awkwardness around Gwen, who he obviously has a crush on, and that's indicated in the teaser, was pretty funny. What'd she say? I missed you too, or something like that, yeah, which is funny.
She got, I missed you too, buddy.
And he's grounded, so he can't leave. Can Spider-Man come out to play? And then I think that leads right into him going into through however he does into the multiverse or another universe or whatever he's doing. And what I saw immediately, and I wasn't 100% sure on because I don't remember it from the end of the last movie, but I have the first issue of Spider-Man 2099. So.
2099. I have that first issue as well. I do. Yes. I still have it. Yep.
Yes. So when I saw what looked like Spider-Man 29, I was like, oh, nice. All right. And apparently that's the reason I'm bringing it up. I didn't know. I don't remember it from the end of the last movie, but apparently it was Spider-Man 2099 was there and Oscar Isaac voiced it and he's coming back to voice it again. So
that was the end credit scene. That was the end credit scene where we seen it and they brought another one. And that's when I flipped out. My kids were like, what? Who is that? And I'm like, oh, that's Spider-Man 2099. It's like, oh yeah, they have no idea who that is or what that's about. So, but so obviously a sequel was, I mean, I guess not obviously, there's no way to know. I mean, if it had been a giant flop, probably Sony might have canned it, but they went all in and it came out. So yeah, anticipating Spider-Man 2099. We didn't get much else because it was basically just a teaser trailer. We got that October 7th, 2022, which feels weird that 2022 is just right around the corner. But the only other thing I'll say about it is the only other confirmed voice actor for this, they're bringing back Haley Steinfeld, bringing back Shamir Moore, and then who was the regular Peter Parker? What's his name? Who played?
Look it up. See if you can think of it before I look it up.
Something Johnson.
It's the guy from The New Girl or whatnot.
Right.
Jake Johnson?
Jake Johnson, right.
I'm not even there yet. Yeah, there it is, Jake Johnson.
Yep, Jake Johnson. Yeah. So he's coming back, Oscar Isaac. And the only other one they have confirmed, which I thought was kind of interesting, is Issa Rae will be playing Spider-Woman or Jessica. Jessica Drew is Spider-Woman. Okay. Issa Rae, which I thought is a very interesting casting choice, seeing how in the regular, Spider-Woman, she's of Caucasian descent. She's Spider-Woman. She gets her powers. I don't know. She gets her power. Like her parents were hit with rays that were gone through a radioactive spider. Something. It's Peter Parker-ish, but not exactly. She has similar powers to Peter Parker, but she also has these webs that she glides on. But she's a somewhat B, maybe C level hero in the Marvel universe. She's on the Avengers, West Coast Avengers. She dated Hawkeye for a while, which you tie into our other thing. But just interesting they're going with Issa Rae. So I'm saying, are we going to have another recasting? We kind of went with we went with Catherine Hahn as Doc Ock in the original, which I thought was great. I thought it was a good misdirection. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they sort of some, obviously they're very aware of diversity and stuff like that, but bringing Issa Rae in, I want to see where they go. I guess there's going to be some other Spider people they introduce, so it's going to be interesting, like who makes a cut and who doesn't. But yeah, like I said, Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, my favorite movie of all time, including animation, live action. So I'm going to say it right now, I'm keeping my expectations low, so I'm not disappointed. Because I feel like most sequels just can't be as good as the original unless, and for me, yes, Into the Spider-Verse is an origin story, but it's not a traditional origin story in the sense of, yes, we see Miles come about, but the movie starts out with, hey, I'm Spider-Man, I'm Spider. Remember the original movie, it starts out with, my name's Peter Parker, and for the last 20 years, I've been Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. So the movie goes into it like, who Spider-Man is this. Yes, this is the Miles origin story, but not an origin story in traditional sense. So always when you have those stories, the second one tend to be better, even though I think Iron Man 2 was kind of a flop. The Dark Knight compared to Batman Begins was great. I still like Batman Returns a little bit better than the original Batman. I mean, I guess it's sacrilegious, even though Jack Nicholson is a Joker, one of the greatest performers of all time, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like keeping my expectations lower, I do not think it's going to exceed or match the original. But that being said, it can still be great. It doesn't have to be my second favorite movie of all time in order for me to like really enjoy it. But I'm here to say that, my expectations are it's going to be a really good, really good Spider-Man movie, just not as good as the original. So
it's going to be your new number one. You wait and see.
If they pull that off, I will be more than happy to give them their accolades and their flowers. But the first one, there's just too much emotional stuff in the first one for me to like, even the stuff with Black fatherhood and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, see that on screen. So I don't know, but yeah, it's just me.
All right. Well, let's end on that high. We'll come back next week. Go check us out, theusualsaints.com. Check us out on social media because I'm going to make some posts this week because we do have an interview lined up for next week. We have Leo Rose. She's a cosplayer. We're interviewing her next Saturday. So I'll post the link for that so people can come chat or call in or whatnot. And then we'll post the podcast the next day. Usual Saints on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The phone number is 240-724-6877. I think it's on the website. Just go to the website. You can email us at usualsaints@gmail.com and all that shit. But we'll be back next week with that interview and whatever else happens in pop culture. Eventually we'll get around to No Way Home, but I'm sure Saints going to want to claim that for USSR. So when we all do see that.
I mean, it can be one big megapod, but I want to get at least an hour and a half, 2 hours on that one. So
2 hours.
We're probably going to need it. I mean, our thoughts are the movie itself is going to be an hour and 40 or 2 hours and 40 minutes. And the amount of cameos and things. And I'm telling you, Marvel's good at misdirection. The things you see in the trailer half those things are probably not going to be in the movie. They're just like teaser type stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a big one. All right.
I'm excited. I don't know if we'll have Jeremy.
I got tickets. Yeah, I already got tickets. Not for that weekend, but the Tuesday after, because I'm not going in the crowds. Fuck all that noise, man. But so the Tuesday after, and then we can record anytime, after that. So
I'm going to see it in 40X. I'll be over in, like I said, Clearwater that week. You go to see it. So we'll see how we can record.
Man, we should like an in-person, like in studio recording, like for like, if I get I got the 2 cameras, we can do like an in studio, like, oh man, like some real shit, like some old school radio Howard Stern type shit. Like,
can we get that working? I mean, I can bring my mic. Well, I don't know. Could you record 2 mics into your, I got a USB mic.
No, I got what you call it, a Scarlett 2. So, or you have a USB mic. I have a XLR, but I have another XLR running around here somewhere. We could figure something out if we do that, or we might just be like, fuck it. But it's all good. We'll figure it out. Let's.
I'm down. Unfortunately, I doubt Jeremy will join us because I don't think he'll see it before you want to put it out, and that's fine. Listen, we can't wait for everyone. We'll see. We'll see if we can get anyone else who's seen it who wants to join. Otherwise, it'll just be me and you geeking out for however long we can talk about it. But for Saint, I'm Mike D. You've been listening to Usual Saints. We'll be right back. Not be right back. We'll be back next week with, like I said, that Leo Rose interview, which I'm really excited about. We've been not having an interview for a few months, so I'm a little pent up with my questions and whatnot, and I always like getting a good conversation. And just based off her response to my Facebook post saying that I was looking for a new permanent fourth co-host, I put that we were explicit. What she's like, oh fuck, shit. She's been saying that kind of shit on the page, so she seems like she'll be fun to talk to. But again, for Saint, I'm Mike D. You've been listening to Usual Saints. Thanks for listening.
Peace.